And welcome back to a fresh episode of the Business Growth Show. Excited to be joined by Marcus Chan today. Marcus is the founder over at Venli Consulting Group. He helps B2B sales professionals sell more and sell better without needing years of experience through his coaching and his training programs. Marcus, second time back on the show. How are you doing, mate?
Hey, you know what? I'm so good. I'm so happy you did not ban me after the first episode. So I'm super happy you invited me back for round two. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. I can't wait.
Looking forward to it, dude. So today's topic, we're talking all about how business owners, how sales reps, how we all can shorten our sales cycle in 2021. We're going to be talking through kind of how we can overcome the dreaded stallings, when prospects go dark, when prospects go quiet, how we can keep opportunities moving nice and smoothly from start and to end to successful close and winning the business. And also, if we can, get to overcoming common objections. But I'd love to start off with Marcus, which is something I'm sure we all get frustrated with from time to time. Why do so many deals? Why do they go quiet? Why do they get stalled? Why do they get put on hold? From your experience, why is this such a common thing to happen?
Yeah. So I think, first off, when you look at a sales process or really just anything in general, like success leaves clues, failure leaves clues, deals that stall leave clues. And if you had deals stall before, that's okay. It happened. It's a very real thing. And the key is taking a look back to deals that have stalled, maybe deals that you even lost, and asking yourself, why are some of these deals stalling? And there's some really common things I see quite often, right? Like one of the most common ones, especially if you're selling to a mid-sized to a larger deal, is not really properly navigating the decision-making process, not knowing who is all involved, their level of impact, their level of influence, how they make decisions, and what that actually looks like. That's one super common one, because right there, if you don't do a good job on the front end and you are presenting and pitching and working the wrong person, then your chances of closing that deal do go down because you are talking to the wrong people. So that's number one, making sure that you are talking to the right people and you're navigating that process early on. That's the first thing. The second thing that I see it happens quite often is not enough of the right work is done on the front end. Okay. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times I see sales professionals, they kind of do an average to mediocre discovery. So they think they have an idea about needs, and then they try to pitch to those needs. But if you don't do a good job with the discovery, truly uncovering the needs of that person you're meeting with, but also all the other decision makers, how you present your offer, your pitch, your demo is drastically impacted. Because if, say, for example, let's just say there's 5 people in the decision-making process, and each of them have their own 5 pieces of criteria. So really, there's like 25 different things you got to make sure you can really hit on for all those people. If you only did an average discovery on the front end, you may only present to 3 of those things they need, and you may not even realize it. And here's the thing that's really tricky is sometimes even with those other decision makers and what they want, even the primary decision maker, they may not know those either yet. They may not know the criteria until you ask them, but they don't know what they don't know. So they themselves do not have clarity. So as you progress in the deal cycle, they're just unsure.
Sure.
They're unsure if what you are selling them can actually fulfill what they're looking for. Okay. Because when you think about it, when someone's looking to partner up with you for a business, they're asking themselves a couple different questions. Number one, does what you do actually work? Like for your business, does it actually work? Does SEO actually work? Okay, they want to know. Number two, will it work for them? Okay, and number three, are they can get value out of it? Is it truly worth it? If they pay you X dollars, will they get at least that, if not more, back by spending that much money with you? And if they can't answer those questions, it's unlikely they're going to want to move forward with you. So those are probably the most common issues I see that really leads to us deals stalling.
Yeah, I'm completely with you that discovery is a really, really key part of the sales process. And in my opinion, I think it's one of the most important, because if you miss stuff, just like you said, if you miss stuff early on, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass probably towards the end of the deal, to when it comes to closing, because you've missed out, quite like you said in point one, you might not have identified who's involved in the decision process. You might not have identified clear kind of problems or pains they're having, or kind of goals where they want to get to. Is there, putting this into a tangible format without going down too much of a rabbit hole about discovery, as we've covered it on past episodes, but is there a simple or simple framework or key few questions, and I know this is going to vary from sector to sector, Marcus, that you really think if you don't do X, Y, and Z on discovery, then you're doomed. You're going to 100% fail the deal. But if you do follow this simple framework, then the chances are you're going to be a lot more successful on the back end when it comes to actually asking for the business.
Yeah, 100%, right? So so we'll go through a couple of different things. You can definitely understand the front end, right? And the reason, before I go into the reason why this is so important is, because even if you have a really, great decision maker who's definitely working with you and they're very interacting with you, if you miss some of these core questions on the front end, that yes, they might meet with you more. Yes, they might have other calls, but the more steps you add, the more friction there is to that deal closing. It doesn't mean that every deal is a one call close, but if you can cut your sales cycle down from having, say, 20 steps down to 10 steps or 5 steps, you will be better off on the long run, because the more steps you add, the more friction there is, the more chances your deal has to go sideways. Now, sometimes you can't avoid it. It is what it is, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like this. It's kind of like if I picture a discovery is like this. It's like you're about to make a delicious meal, at your house. So you make sure you have all the ingredients in your fridge, in your pantry, in your cupboard, so you're ready to make that delicious recipe. Now, if you don't have those ingredients and you're like, okay, you start making dinner. Oh, you know what? I need this spice. So you race to the store. Okay. Now you're wasting time. You come back. Oh, you know what? I now need this vegetable. Now you go back to the store again and you come back. Oh, I need this. And you go back. And now suddenly that dinner that would have taken you 20 minutes to make takes you 2-3 hours to make, because you keep go back and forth. And a sales cycle is no different. If you could have closed out 1 or 2 calls and you don't do a good job on the front end, now you're going back and forth, emails, calls, texts, Zoom calls, back and forth. And now your deal cycle gets spread out for months. And that's not including any internal things that company may have going on. That's not including marketplace conditions that have stuff going on that can delay your sales process. Okay, so that's the first thing you got to understand. Okay, does that make sense so far?
I love that analogy. That's one of the best analogies I've actually heard when it comes to discovery. I love the linking it to ingredients, linking it to making a meal, and forgetting certain things, and you have to waste time. And it's really nicely put.
Yeah. So now when you go into the discovery, and I think the first off, even before the discovery, hopefully if you did a good job on the initial first outreach, on the phone, on the email, whatever, you are making sure they're at least pre-qualified. So when you get into a discovery, you have the primary decision maker or one of the high level influencers in that business that can help you make a decision. Okay. And you also have an idea who's all involved. That's the first thing you want to do, because your sales cycle begins before you even have that first meeting with them. So it's super valuable that you do the research on the front end.
Good point. And before we even get into that, if we're having discovery calls, because you mentioned quite rightly then, Marcus, because I've had troubles with this in the past. I've booked up discovery calls with prospects, perhaps talked about where they are now, where their problems, where they want to get to, and then we get towards the end. I talk about perhaps budget, timeline, and they either have a really, really small budget that we can't even work with, or their time frame's ridiculous and we can't work with that either, or there's just variations out of our control. So do you advise, before we even get to a initial discovery call that could take 20 or so minutes, that we actually clearly advise perhaps whether it's our budget's range starts from this, or our investment with us starts from X to Y to Z, and typical deliveries like that, just so we're making kind of best use of our time, our prospects' time, but at the same time not putting them off too much? I mean, I guess there's a bit of a balance you've got to strike with this, right?
Yeah, great question, right? So this is actually why, for sure, I like things like, BANT and stuff like that. That can be definitely very useful, right? In terms of, doing that on the first call. But I think you'd be really careful as well, because if you let's just say, for example, if the investment to work with your company is $30,000 and there's no real rapport or trust there, they haven't really seen value with you yet. And depending on your marketplace presence, and you get on the call with them, on the first call with them, and you're booking that time, they're cool, see you there. You're like, hey, cool. Couple questions. Number one, do you have 30K in capital ready to rock? Well, they might be like, whoa, hold on. They're like a little scared off right there, right? So, if you were going to ask a question like that and you want to make sure that you actually have some funds, because here's the thing. Here's the thing about budgets, okay? This is what people don't realize. There's still money there, but it's going somewhere else. You can reallocate budgets. If you are the true final decision maker, you can always move funds. That's just what happens, okay? That's what happens. Like the ultimate decision maker, what I call the economic buyer, right? The economic buyer is the only person that can say no and everyone says yes. And if everyone else says no, they can say yes. They can veto everyone out. All right. If they said, hey, the budget for, for your X offer or your X, for our budget for SEO this year is $30,000, they can say, you know what, gone. Or they can say, you know what, no, we're going to take some funds over here, and now it's 50. So now you can start, they can move money around. So that's why the budget thing you have to be kind of careful with, because you may disqualify too early on before you get the opportunity to really uncover what they need and how they do things.
It's a tough one. And it's always, it is, isn't it? Because sometimes you've got to have these conversations. You've got to uncover certain issues that might then lead your prospect to think, yes, this really is worth investing in. Yes. It's like, how do I make best use of my time? I don't think there's one right answer, really, whether to qualify too early or to have the conversations. I guess it's all about striking the balance. Yeah,
so let's talk about that, right? So I would say on the first call, before you get into the disco, if you will, when you qualify them, I personally like to qualify just to make sure that at least they are the right person at the very minimum. Okay. Hey, listen. So, hey, Sam, I know we're going to see a lot of value in this meeting. Aside from yourself, if it's a good fit to move forward in the process, is anybody else need to be part of this meeting to move this ball down the field? Or something along those lines. They say, oh, no, it's just me. Okay, cool. Perfect. Hey, looking forward to seeing them. Boom, done. I'm good there. Okay. So now at least, because here's the thing, the primary decision maker is a person that can make shifts. Okay. Budget, anything else, needs, etc. Right. So if what you're offering is maybe a new way of doing things, they may have zero budget, meaning they need to create a budget for that. And that's okay. That's okay. Or they go get funding. Okay. People get funding all the time. Okay. like people forget, like, you can go get funding. If it's a value, it's going to help their business, they go get funding. All right. Like, for example, I have people that my programs, they get funding. They go to banks. They sell their cars. They sell Bitcoin off to join my programs, right? Because they understand it's an investment. So it's no different. So now when you get into that disco, once you're on the disco, okay, you'd often go through kind of the typical kind of rapport questions when you kind of start off. You should definitely set up, some sort of upfront agenda or some sort of agenda or agreement upfront to really set the tone of how the call is going to go. And I think first off, there's a couple things you want to understand. You do want to, you should have research on the business beforehand, so you should have an idea what the business is all about. Okay, like what have you seen on their website? What have you seen on social media? Have there been press releases? What's important to them? You should have at least an idea. And your goal is just to validate what those ideas are. So understanding, number one, first you want to know, hey, what are their goals? What do they really want to accomplish in the business? This is important because your solution needs to align to that, right? What does that person you're talking to, what are their needs, wants, and desires for the business? Where do they want to go? Why is that important to them? Okay. That's really, really important right from there. You also want to cover what are they currently doing for whatever solution you're offering. Do they do it in-house? Do they do nothing? Do they have someone else? That's no problem. Okay. And the goal here is you just want to know what's their exact status. What are they currently doing? Okay. So where are they right now?
Yep.
Where do they want to go with that? There's got to be some sort of gap. It's either pain, it's not getting fulfilled, or it's not getting the result they want, which could also be a pain as well. So where is the gap from where they are from what they're using to where they want to go? Okay. So you want to cover basically how you can basically fulfill it. You also want to cover any type of potential, depending on how technical what you sell is, the specifications that you actually need. All right. So the things like if you were to put together a proposal on the spot, do you have all the details?
Sure.
It's really important, right?
So just to hone in on that a bit more, Marcus. So understanding someone's current state, that's fine. You can, just like you said, quite rightly, you can ask kind of what are they doing to tackle X now? And it might be they've got a solution in place. It might be they haven't. It might be they're just thinking about it, and understanding why that's important. When it comes to, like Keenan coined, creating the gap between where they are now, their current state, and their future state, where they want to get to, or the problem or the issue, or what's really grinding their gears because they can't get to a certain revenue goal or they can't get to the growth goal where they want to exit the company. What's one of the best ways to frame that instead of just saying, hi, customer, what's your problem? Have you got a good way to, I know, again, it's going to vary from industry, but is there a nice way that we can rework, like, what is the issue you're having with X, or where do you want to get to with X? Is there a good way that we can kind of position that?
I think it's keeping it really simple, right? So if you start off with something like, hey, hey, Sam, I took a look at your website. I'm so impressed. You've won this award, this award, this award. I saw all that. So when you look at your business, obviously you've been very successful. Where do you see your business going in the next 3 to 5 years? So now you're right there. You're giving the future pace a little bit. Getting to think about the future state. You know what? I want to triple the size of my business. I want to have operations all over here, here, and here. That
Sure.
sounds brilliant. And what are some of your plans to get there?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're just uncovering what the plans are, and what you're really looking for are potential areas where maybe your solution can help fulfill that, right? If you will, or at least align to get into that point. Okay, or maybe they haven't thought to that, and that's okay. Right. And then you start uncovering, whatever they're currently using. If it's SEO, hey, what are you currently doing for, website optimization, search optimization? What are you currently doing? Oh, we have an in-house guy. We're kind of doing this. Okay, cool. So now you understand where they're at. Okay. And then you can just start digging a little bit deeper. Why is that important to you? How does it help your business? So it's important to understand why they even have something in place and how it actually helps them. And the reason this is really important, this drives into their buying behavior and modes. Because this will tell you, they'll say, well, the reason we hired an SEO person is because we want to make sure that we're ranked on the first page. Okay, cool. And why is that important to you? Well, because when we're ranked on the first page, when people Google us for plumbers, or I was making something up, plumbers, that we're the first place to show up in Portland, Oregon. Okay, and why is that important to you? Well, this is how we get business, because people Google it all the time. So we want to be the first one to the first call, because we know it's all about timing. Because if they're calling the plumber, whoever answers first usually gets the job. And why is that important to you? Well, we get more business. Okay, cool. So and is that going to help you reach the goals you have in 3 to 5 years? It is. Beautiful. So now you're digging deep, and you're mapping out. You're really uncovering why it's there. Now, then you start digging a little deeper. It's like, okay, cool. Now, if it's something like that, it's such an easy Google search on the spot, right? You could be like, okay, let's just look you up real quick. Wow. Okay. So I see right now you guys are on page 9. Okay. What are some things you guys are doing to get yourselves?
I was going to say, probably don't laugh when they're on the phone.
Yeah, don't laugh on the phone, right? But you get my point, right? Yeah. Now, if it's not as visible like that, and some people say, hey, how can your current vendor improve? What do you not like about them? If they're really tied to their vendor, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to give you much. So your goal is just to open up a little bit, and you can have simple, basic framework questions. It might sound something. Hey, listen. So I know you have this vendor for X amount of time. What are 3 things that you would like them to do more of for you? What are 3 things they can really improve on for you? What are some areas you really want to expand on so you can get potentially a better result? So you're not necessarily dissing them, but you're uncovering where are they and where do they personally actually want them there? Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, depending on the conversation, if they're like, oh, we had them for a year, but we're just not happy. Okay, tell me a little more about that. That's an opening right there. Right now, you're not always that lucky. Sometimes depending on how warm it is, they might be a little resistant. So that's why having those softer opening questions can open them up to where they're going to go. And then whatever they say, digging deeper. Why is that important to you? Hey, we're not really happy with, and it could be something just totally, what you think is irrelevant. It might be like, oh, we don't like how they're not responsive. Okay, tell me a little more about that. Well, sometimes response times are just, take too long. And what do you mean? Well, we'll send them an email about a question and they'll get back to us. Okay, well, tell me a little more about that. And this is also really important for you because you're qualifying and disqualifying them, because if they say something like, well, I emailed them and it takes them at least 10 minutes to get back to me. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, you might just be a high maintenance customer. You might not be a good fit, right? Like I might just have to cut you out right here, right?
And with that said, Marcus, because this is great. This is all really useful stuff on how we can open up our prospects. So the old saying, people buy with emotion and then justify it with logic. Are there certain things we should be listening for when we're asking these questions, when we're really trying to open them up and get to the root cause of their problems, where they want to get to and so on? Should we be listening to the tone of their voice? And if there's kind of frustrations, like you said there. So, and I promise I'm not paying Marcus to talk about SEO. He's picked that off the top of his mind.
Yeah. It just worked out. It just works out, right? Yeah.
It's working out nicely. But yeah, when we're digging deep and they're perhaps saying like, this is an issue because of this. And in this case, the person wanted to be page 1 of Google and they need to be that because people typically, if they're looking for service, will call the first one. If we can hear in their voice that they're perhaps getting more frustrated, is that a good sign? Or are there certain things we should be listening out for where we can kind of really pin in that these are key pain points and we need to hone in on this when it comes to our presentation or our proposal?
Great point. So when you hear that, you want to open up more. All right. And I want you to picture it's like this. This is a bit of a graphic example. So, earmuffs if you don't like graphic examples. But anyways, so when you hear that type of frustration, or even in the word choices they use, those are signs to you. They may have deeper things on their mind they maybe are thinking about, but have not verbalized quite yet. So for example, if we said the customer support thing, sometimes, they're not responsive. It's annoying. Okay, that tone shift and even that word annoying, suddenly that should be a trigger. Okay, and I want you to picture those type of things as it's like a little wound. Okay, it's a little cut. It's that cut that bothers them. Like I would cut my fingers, a cut that bothers them, but they may not have done anything yet to change their situation, to improve situation. So your job as a sales professional is to now open that wound up. Right, you want to stick your fingers inside that wound and rip it open. All right, and you want to take your handful of rock salt and rub it inside. Okay, inside the wound, and now it's bleeding everywhere. Okay, because then as a result, now they're gonna take action. They're gonna do something. They're gonna get emotional, and that's okay. You want that. Now don't be a jerk face about this. Be a pro about this. Now I exaggerate a little bit, but my point is now it's like, okay, wow, you know what? Your goal is you need them to realize they need to take action, because if it's annoying, so why is that annoying? So let's say it's a week, okay? So if they say, it takes a week to get back to them, wow, that's really frustrating. So, man, how does that make you feel? Oh, it's terrible. Well, how does it impact you? Well, it's bad. How does it impact you? Well, shoot, if the words on our website are wrong, customers see that. We look unprofessional. We could lose business. Wow. And how many customers do you think potential customers see your site every day? Hundreds. So you're telling me hundreds of people see your site every single day with the misspelling? Is that right? Yes. Wow. And how that impacts your company, if you just even lost one deal a month off this, well, one deal is like 20,000. So you lost one deal on 20,000. So that's $240,000 potential loss. Is that right? Yeah. Oh yeah. So now suddenly that little wound is tangible and it's real.
But and what I really like, Mark, is you're never putting words into the prospect's mouth either. You're getting them to literally say each part. So
Correct.
They're uncovering it for themselves. You're not saying this is a problem. You're getting them to open up. You're just simply asking the questions, right?
That's right. So now they themselves are fully aware of their own issues. They just didn't know. Okay. They just didn't know. It's no different than when you go to the doctor, you're feeling okay. You're like, I'm fine. And then they take a look at some sort of measurement. They look at something, look at a mole on your body. They're like, oh my, what is that? You need to go get that removed immediately. And you're like, what? Like, that looks weird. You got to get that cut out ASAP. Okay. Wow. Okay. I better go right now. There's urgency. I got to go. Right. Now, I exaggerate a little bit, but my point is it's no different in the sales process, especially if you are selling something that's really, it can be commoditized, if you will. Right. Like if you're selling I talk to people in cybersecurity all the time, it's like, so in the IT director, it can get commoditized, if you will. People that sell, telecommunications, same thing. Right. So in those types of situations, you have to be able to create that pain and urgency. Okay. Which also helps with your sales cycle. So, because here's the thing, again, if there's no pain, there's no future opportunity, because there's really two modes that people can be in that make them take action. Okay. So they're either in growth mode, the business is growing, they need to have a solution. That's a great place to be in. That's a great business to work with. Okay. This is why people love to work with startups or find startups, because if they're well funded, they're growing. They need something. Okay. They may not have something in place. So it's easier to displace whatever they're currently doing and whatever they have already. The second one is they're in trouble mode, meaning they're having issues. Like they are having issues. And those are usually the ones that reach out on the website leads. They reach out and because they're like, hey, I realize I got this problem and I need your help. Those are probably the two hottest modes to be in. Okay. Then you have people that are neutral, which are like, whether I change or not, doesn't really matter. So your goal is to get them neutral, get them to trouble mode. Okay. Or get them to growth mode. It's really gonna be trouble mode. Then the worst one for them to be in is ego, meaning they believe whatever they're doing is the absolute best. They're like, no, I promise you, using pagers is the best way to communicate. There's no better way. We have to, they're like overconfident. That's ego mode. And those ones are very hard. So you got to create a lot of pain to get them to that point. Okay. You mop on spilling so far. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to raise was how do you know when to call it quits? So I appreciate this is going to be different for every case, but let's say we've attempted to dig a little deeper. but then we found there's no real pain, there's no real problem, there's no real fuel for growth. They don't seem that bothered. They don't seem that keen to grow with us or fix this problem. When do we know when to call it quits, in your opinion, Marcus?
Yeah, great question. So now what you also wanted to double check as well is, did you also make sure you have the right people in play? Do you have the right players? Okay. We haven't got to that point yet. So because if you're meeting with like a low-level decision maker who can't make any decisions, and they're like, well, first off, you shouldn't have met with them. It's a waste of your time. But maybe you did accidentally. It happens, right? It's life. So you want to make sure before you do all this stuff, you have all the right people in play, the right decision makers, what's important to each of them. All the same questions we asked earlier, basically the same for them as well, because each of them may have different requirements of what they want. This is all before you present anything. Okay. So it's like you're getting all the ingredients to the recipe together. Okay. So then at that point, you can make a decision, because it's like if you did not, right? Like let's just say or maybe if you let's say, for example, they are the right decision maker, but they're kind of just like, meh. At that point, like if you think they're at least relatively qualified, if you can, I would literally just do a quick pitch on the spot. If there's interest, great. If there's not, move on. Like, don't spin your wheels with someone who's not going to really take the time. Don't chase them around. But sometimes some people are just, no matter what questions you ask, no matter how perfect the process you run, they're just going to be kind of stonewalled till you show them something shiny. That happens. Now, hopefully, you did a good job in the discovery, so they are open to seeing something shiny, and they want to see something shiny. All right. So at that point, after you get done with everything, you can say, hey, listen, okay, cool. So, based on what you told me so far, these are your goals. This is what you're looking for. And this is what if you make a switch, this is what you want. Is that right? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Hey, like if you have a demo deck, just do a demo deck right on the spot to show them real quick. Hey, you know what? Based on what you told me about your goals here's how I can help you. And just go through. Hit only things that are important to. Don't present irrelevant things. And then just literally ask them, hey, listen, like is for all this, just have a ballpark. It'll be roughly ballpark. Don't do proposal for someone like that. Hey, ballpark wise, it's gonna be roughly like 30 grand. What do you think?
Yeah. So gauge their feedback straight away.
Just gauge their feedback. If they're like, oh wow, or like, actually, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Okay, cool, awesome. Then they might say like, well, let me think about it. Well, don't leave then. Okay, don't leave then. All right, at that point, you really want to, before you leave at that point, you really want to make sure, is it worth your time to continue to pursue? Are they just saying, oh, okay, cool, not bad. Let me think about it. If they're just saying it to be nice, or are they truly actually interested? And they're just kind of, the person that keeps cards close to their chest. So you just dive a little bit deeper. Hey, cool, awesome. So, help me understand a little bit. That sounds great. Take as much time to think about as you want. What exactly do you need to think about? Break them down. Not break them down. Go deeper. Go deeper. Really uncover what's really on their mind. What do they really like? Do they truly want X offer?
Yeah, because I suppose on that note, Marcus, and we've all experienced it if we've done any kind of business or selling, there are kind of more analytical people that do genuinely like to take things away and think about it. There are, on the other side of the coin, people that will say, I need to think about it, because they do want to blow you off. They might never work with you, or they might take on the idea and try and do it themselves, or whatever it may be they decide to do. So yeah, I guess to your point, it's asking more questions. Is it just to kind of uncover what that think about it really means? Isolate
it down. Isolate down exactly what they want to think about, and what are the obstacles that are holding you back from moving the deal forward. That's what you're looking for. What are because they may have internal objections or external objections. Okay. Internal, or maybe they're not sure about something, so you need to overcome it, right? Maybe, or something external, something outside their control that maybe they're thinking about and how to overcome it. So you need to uncover what those obstacles are, those objections are, so you can show them why those do not cease to exist. That's really important. Okay. Now let's just say, for example, this is a great, now do that first. Okay. But there's going to still be a percentage of people, let's call it 10% of people out there who are like, still, I'm a think about a person. I never make decisions on the spot. And your goal is not to one call close them. Your goal is you're helping them mentally process a commitment, right? Like, cause whether you sign today or is irrelevant, it's really getting that to walk through mentally the commitment on their mind of choosing you as a vendor. So now at that point, if they're really thinking about a person, it's very simple. I say, okay, cool. So, just so we're on the same page, because maybe they're still not telling you what it is, on a scale of say, 0 to 100%, how are you feeling about working with us? Give me a gauge here. Okay.
Yep.
And that's very powerful right there, because they'll tell you that. They're like, oh man, we're at least 50%. 50%? After my incredible presentation? Okay. All right. Okay. 50%. Okay. Well, what can I show you or answer for you to get you from, maybe 50 to, let's call, ideal 100%, but at least higher, somewhere higher. What could I do? So you're getting them to mentally process now. Okay, you know what? It's just, here's the thing. That 50, they might say the 50%, it's really nothing to do with you. I literally have to go to the bank. I watch your stuff. I have to get funding. That's it. If I get approved for funding, it's done. Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Now we're having a conversation. Now we're having a business conversation. Cool. And when are you going to talk to the bank? After we get done, I'm gonna go to the bank. I'm gonna go to the bank, do deposit, and I'm gonna set up a time with them. Hopefully this week, and this way I can get the loan hopefully processed and approved. Okay, beautiful. That sounds really good. So if I understand you right, you are going to work with us. You just want to get the loan approved first. Is that right? Yes. Okay, cool. What if the loan doesn't get approved? So now I'm planning other steps.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get approved, then I can't work with you. Okay, well, tell me more. What do you mean? Well, we don't have the funds for that. We don't have 30K in capital working to drop right now. Okay, cool. So what do you have? Well, I could probably, start with 10K. Okay, cool. What else? And how would you get the rest of the 20? If we can't get funding, then, if we could work out some sort of payment plan. Okay, cool. So option 1, you go get approved. Option 2, we do 10K up front, and then we do funding. Or we do a payment plan. Is that fair? Yes. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So when are you going to talk to the bank? Today? Okay, cool. Let's do this. Today is Thursday. Let's set up a time. Let's give you a little time to go to the bank, do all that stuff. Let's set up a time. Monday afternoon, 1 o'clock. I'll send you a Zoom invite right after we get done with this. We jump on a Zoom. We catch up, just bring you up to speed on exactly what the bank said, your pre-approval, all that stuff. And then from there, if you get approved, cool, we'll go from there. If you don't, we'll go ahead. We'll wire the 10K that same day. We'll plan our payment plan. We'll get you rocking that Monday. Is that cool? Beautiful. Done.
Nice. Yeah, I love the scale. Because like you said, it could be that they say a 5 or less or more, and
right.
They bring up to the table, well, actually, it's out of my hands. We're actually waiting for this investment, or the business in the process of selling, or something completely out of your control that is no way near. So the deal's totally stalled. So you just say, look, we'll pick it up in 6 months. Or on the other side of the scale, they could just say, like you said, we really want to do it. I just need to check if I can get the funding, or I need to get buy-in from the marketing director, or we need to bring this person in, or I need to see a man about a dog. So like you said, you're literally finding out exactly what you need to get it over the line, and then booking in that next step, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So picture it's like this. It's like you're on a road trip. You've gotten to your destination as far as you can go today, but you know where you want to go at the end. Before you leave, before you just get in your car, start driving aimlessly and getting lost, all you want to do is get as much clarity as possible on Google Maps on how you get to the next step. And you also want to have contingencies in case, hey, what if roads are closed? Okay. What if there's a storm and this road's gone now? You want contingencies. Okay. Plan A, plan B, plan C. So you're basically, it's like choose your own adventure, but now you know how to walk through with them. Okay. And that's a very powerful way. So I'll give you an example, right? So, I have this opportunity I was working on this earlier this week. I had a closing call for this Friday, right? And I told them there's really 3 outcomes. Number 1, they basically, they get all their whole team into my program. Number 2, we figure out funding options. They can't do that. And then number 3, they just tell me no, they don't like me. That's fine. I said, I really just 1 of 3 is good. They send me a note today. They say, hey, listen, it's been absolutely awesome. We're just going to have to hold off right now because of whatever reason. We're going to go at number 3. This is no problem. I'm good with that. Like now I know I'm not going to waste my time with them. I'm not going to pester them. I'm not going to annoy them. Now we're just having a business conversation. So now when they're ready, they're going to hit me up. Right. And that's okay. That my sales cycle just shortened drastically because now I know, well, I'm good. And it's not going to be perfect every single time like that. It's not perfect. I didn't close them obviously. But my point is you have clarity. And clarity is power. And as a business professional, sales professional, your time is your most valuable asset you have. So what you don't want to do is not do these steps. Because if you think about it, if you do exactly what we discussed today, your sales cycle drastically cuts down massively because you're making sure you have all the ingredients to bake your cake, to make your dinner, to make your dish in the kitchen. Shorten it down and then plan the next steps. And if you can't get to that close, that's no problem. Then you just put them into your hopper. You keep them warm. You nurture them. Maybe 6 months down the road, they come around. Who knows? But then you move on to the next one and you just keep running the business. And when you do a good job consistently and you have a good pipeline, you never worry about those deals. You don't hold on to that one deal because, you had a good conversation 9 months ago. You don't, because you have so many deals in the pipeline. It's not a big deal.
Yep. And that's I mean, it's all great, all good stuff, Marcus. It's something when I first got into sales, which I've talked about on some episodes before, I was kind of afraid to question prospects so deeply. But what you do, like we've ran through today, is you really get a solid understanding of where they're at, if they have got any problems, if they have got growth aspirations, where they want to get to, if it's really worth them doing it, if they're convinced that they want to get there, and if they're convinced that you can help them get there. And then kind of really digging deep when it comes to decision makers, when it comes to their problems, when it comes to their budgets, when it comes to time frames, which is going to give you all the stuff that you need to ultimately make best use of your time, as you said, because then you can determine, is this a qualified prospect? Is this someone we can actually help? And then take it to the next step, whether it is kind of looking to close the deal there and then, or if you're in kind of larger scale, slower sales cycles, then perhaps looking to set up your presentation or your demo or your proposal, however your sales funnel works.
Exactly.
And I think as we're coming up for time, Marcus, I think that would perhaps be a good next episode for us. So perhaps on kind of larger scale deals, we could talk about how to kind of really run the presentation process. So once we've done this discovery, once we get into kind of setting up the perfect proposal, the perfect presentation to bring the larger scale deals from kind of concept to execution.
For sure, man. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, I think in terms of today's episode, one of the simplest ways, kind of simplified, kind of tie it all together, right? One of the simplest ways and most effective ways to shorten your sales cycle, because in today's time, really any time, is number one, make sure you do the proper homework walking in before you go into that sales call so you know what you need uncovered. Number two, asking all those right questions, just like we asked today, to make sure they're properly qualified, and really digging deep. Really digging deep. And then number three, having really clear and direct next steps and expectations on both ends. If you do all three like that, automatically you'll have a shorter sales cycle. You'll close deals faster. You'll have clarity on deals faster, whether it's yes or no. And you get out of that maybe land where you're just smoking that hopium.
Yep. Too right, man. Well, Marcus, really enjoyed the show, dude. Thanks very much for coming on as always. And we'll certainly have you back on, like I say, to chat through all things doing the perfect proposal, the perfect pitch, the perfect presentation, which is going to be massively valuable, as we've not touched on that too much just yet on the show. But with that said, please do tell us more about how everyone can connect with you, how they can learn from you, and how they can do business with you, sir.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. So first off, definitely go follow me on LinkedIn. Look up Marcus Chance, the only guy with Speedos and a tagline. I think we discussed on a previous episode. You can figure out why there's Speedos in there. And then number two, head over to my website. I got free training resources on there. Just head to sixfiguresalesacademy.com, sixfiguresalesacademy.com. Head over there. Boom. I got trainings there. I got cool stuff in there. All types of things going to help you sell more, 100% free.
Awesome, man. And be sure to follow Marcus over on LinkedIn. He recently got the Sales Star Award. You got some kind of award recently, right?
Yeah. LinkedIn gave me this like top voice award. I mean, it's not big. It's like top 10 out of like 300 million. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Decent, man. But you're putting out quality sales content all the time. So hit him up over there. But apart from that, Marcus, thanks once again. Really appreciate you coming on the show, dude.
Thanks so much.
No worries. Everything will be available for all of Marcus's links over at the website businessgrowth.marketing. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit subscribe. Business Growth Show, wherever the heck you get your podcasts. We interview business leaders each and every week to provide actionable tips across marketing, across sales, all with the goal to help you grow your business and grow your revenue. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.